Good afternoon, everyone. We are excited to bring you our virtual take on our annual National Drive Electric Week event. Usually we would be having an in-person ride and drive and have some test drive opportunities, but this year we are doing this virtually and we're glad that all of you can join us, and we hope that you learn a lot from all of our personal experiences with electric vehicles. So my name is Leah Thill. I am the environmental planner with the Michiana Area Council of Governments. And we're a regional planning organization that covers a 4-county area here in northern Indiana, shown on the map there. We've been partnering with South Shore Clean Cities for 3 years now to put on these educational electric vehicle events through our Northern Indiana Green Fleet program. So we're really excited to be involved in this great event. We'll be bringing you some personal stories for the rest of the hour with myself and the rest of the folks here that you see if you all want to give a wave. We've got Sheila McCarthy, who has 2 all-electric vehicles, Rachel Novick, who has a plug-in hybrid minivan, which is really pretty cool. We have the City of Goshen with an all-electric vehicle and hybrid police vehicles. We have Adam Thada with a plug-in hybrid vehicle, as well as a couple plug-in vehicles in the fleet at his workplace that he'll share about, as well as Tim Peters with a couple plug-in hybrids in his family as well. So you'll be hearing from all of us here over the next few minutes. All right. I want to start with a little bit of background for those of you that are completely new to the electric vehicle space. First of all, most people before they buy an electric vehicle want to know where they're going to charge them. Usually 80 to 90% of charging happens at home, but when you're out and about in the community or the region, it's nice to know that there's public charging available. Level 2 stations are slower, but we call them destination chargers because they'll give you a good amount of miles in just a couple hours. This map here with the green little symbol shows where those are located across South Bend, Goshen, Warsaw, Plymouth here in the area for some charging while you're just traveling within the region. And if you're going longer distance, you want to know that you can go more miles than your battery can hold at a time. So you'll have to stop and charge quickly, and fast chargers, they're considerably faster than the level 2 destination chargers. This shows our region here. We had our very first public fast charger installed at University Park Mall in Mishawaka this year. So that was a huge development because now we can travel from Goshen to South Bend all the way to Chicago in a car that maybe only has a range of 80 to 100 miles. So that's a big development. The other development we're waiting for is the Volkswagen settlement providing funding for fast charging along US 31 so that again, cars that only have a range of 100 miles can easily make it to Indianapolis, where now that's currently not possible. You'll notice I haven't shown any Tesla fast chargers on here. They are out there, but I've shown only those stations that are non-proprietary and can be used by all other vehicle types. Here's just a closer look at the free public charging stations around the region. There are 2 in South Bend, 1 downtown and 1 by Howard Park. And in Goshen just this year, it's very exciting that they installed their very first public charging station that you'll hear more about later on in the hour. Here's a little bit of a snapshot on the uptake of electric vehicles over the last few years. Really started to take off around 2014, and we've had close to a 50% year-over-year growth rate up until present over in the region over the last few years. And consider that that's really without much meaningful public charging or any fast chargers in our region. So there's definitely a potential for that to increase in the future, especially now that there are many more models that are available and costs are falling and ranges are increasing very quickly. Here's a snapshot of the most popular vehicles in our region right now. Tesla definitely came out ahead as the Model 3 was introduced, followed by Chevrolet, Ford, and Nissan. We've looked at all the vehicles based on their registration with the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles to analyze that data. And we've also looked at the breakdown in plug-in hybrids, which is shown with the acronym PHEV, and all electric or battery electric vehicles. And it's really held steady as an even split between the two over the years, which is pretty interesting to me, even in rural communities like Marshall County. We also have a local EV drivers group, which a number of us on the call today are a member of. The Michiana Electric Vehicle Network is, we did a survey, and it shows some really interesting information. I think that just over a third of us are new drivers, only 1 to 2 years. And over 40% of us have been driving electric vehicles now for a while, since the beginning of electric vehicles starting to go mainstream over the last 3 to 5 years. Another thing that's interesting is that most of us rely on charging at home, over 3/4 of us. So although public charging is helpful, most people do have access to that in their homes. We also looked at how people have been acquiring their vehicles, and this really shows that a lot of folks aren't necessarily adopting the latest, greatest, most expensive technology, but many people are purchasing their vehicles affordably and used. So I think that's very interesting, and a lot of folks can answer questions about how they found their vehicle. And that can be online search engines, or even through local dealers or dealers a couple hours from here, both new and used. So there's a lot of experience in the group if anyone has questions and wants to follow up with the local EV drivers group to ask about that. All right, so a little about me before I turn it over to the rest of the presenters. I've been an EV driver for about the last 4 years. I live in South Bend, and as I mentioned, I work for MACOG. The vehicle I've had for almost the last 4 years has been a Nissan Leaf, and it's an older model, 2016. It has a range of, on a good day and good weather, 100 miles, definitely less than that on the highway or in the winter. But it's been my only vehicle, and I've been making it work through renting vehicles and borrowing vehicles when I go out of town, or I can just get to the Illinois border, do a fast charge there, and get into Chicago. So I've had a limited range, and I've made it work. Let's see. There we go. That shows me fast charging on the toll road near Chicago. So those are pretty essential to allowing people to use their vehicles like you would any other vehicle, and go farther distances. But I've recently upgraded to a Chevy Volt, and the difference, when I got my Nissan Leaf, my 2016, that was really, at that time, the longest range you could get of a reasonably affordable vehicle, 100 miles. And here we are a few years later, and that's a 250% increase in the range of this vehicle, from the Nissan Leaf to the Chevy Bolt. And there was a pretty good discount as well. So as I mentioned, most of my charging happens at home, but now I have a vehicle that'll be able to take me all the way to Indianapolis, even though there's no public or fast charging that would have made that possible in my Nissan Leaf. So I'm excited to be able to go anywhere. So that's a little about my vehicle, a little more about my family and my inspiration for getting into this. It all started with my grandparents, who are in their mid to upper 80s these days, and way back in 2013, before many people had really heard of electric vehicles, they purchased their first Nissan Leaf. That's them 7 or 8 years ago, and they've been upgrading them ever since as new models have come out. So they were my inspiration, and then I further inspired the rest of my family to follow suit here. On the left that's my dad with their blue Chevy Bolts charging at the Indiana Municipal Power Agency's fast charger in Carmel, Indiana. They're able to make it all the way to see me, and they live in a rural area that doesn't have any public charging whatsoever, but it doesn't really matter because they can charge at home, and it has the range that they need. And then my youngest sister here, this is very exciting. She just bought her first car, and she can say that her first car was an electric vehicle. It's a plug-in used Ford C-Max. So it's been a pretty exciting year for our family, and I would say that our inspiration mostly derives from environmental reasons, but it's just really exciting to see what's possible and affordable these days. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first other presenter here, Sheila McCarthy. Do you want to introduce yourself before your video presentation?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Sheila. I live in the near Northwest neighborhood in South Bend, down the street from Leah. So we have 2 Volts in our corner and just got another one down the street. There's also a few Leafs in our neighborhood. A word about charging. There's charging across from the local cup provided by the near Northwest neighborhood. When we first got our Nissan Leaf, we ran the plug cord through the window out to charge it. And after about 3 or 4 months, we put in an exterior regular outlet just ourselves to be able to charge it. And that's worked fine. A lot of people are nervous about charging, and charging at home is very possible. If you don't need to purchase an expensive level 2 charger. A regular outlet works fine. You could put in a regular outlet yourself. So I want to just encourage people that that's not a problem at all, that it's wonderful to charge at home. It takes 10 seconds. A lot faster than the gas station. I made a video for you all, and as Leah said, you can really inspire the rest of your family, and your family can inspire you. My first experience driving an EV was renting a Tesla back 5 years ago, and I took it to a family trip, and my brothers were very impressed with it. One brother then got a Nissan Leaf and now has a Model 3. The other brother has a reservation on a Cybertruck, and we're all very diverse in our views otherwise, but I'm really excited that we're all interested in the EVs.
All right, Catherine, if you want to fire up the video, there we go.
Hey everyone, coming at you from my brand new Model Y. No, just kidding. No, I am in a Model Y, but my wife says we can't buy a Tesla. We can rent one every year. So a few years ago, we rented a Model S. We took it up to the top of Mount Washington and made some energy on the way down. After that, we rented a Model X. Had a great time in the mountains of Salt Lake City. And the next year rented a Model 3. And now the Model Y has come out, and here we are. You can see the glass roof. You can see all that space behind me. It's perfect for car camping. We did camp in our Model S on the way to New Hampshire a few years ago. But all of this stoked an interest in EVs that I've had since the 1990s. Really, as a kid, I wanted a solar-powered car, and then saw these electric cars that were promised and were coming out in prototype, and begged my dad to get one. He never did. But a few years ago, we got solar power on our house, and I said, okay, the time is up. Time to get an electric car. So I found a Nissan Leaf, which is behind me, for $5,500. And it's a beautiful car. I use it as a truck. I put all kinds of stuff in there. It fits a water heater. It only goes 84 miles in the summer, about 50 miles in the winter. It gets real cold in the winter because you don't want to use the heat that much. And so it was after about 6 months of owning it, we took it to Thanksgiving in Indianapolis with the plan that we'd then keep going to Nashville. But the problem is there's no fast chargers between South Bend and Indianapolis, so it took a very long time, multiple stops. It was 28 degrees, very cold. So we kept getting out to go into bars or to hospital waiting rooms, or it was pizza place. It was kind of terrible. So after that, my wife started looking for a longer range electric car that we could afford, because we were basically at the point where we could get a used Model S. And then she found a Chevy Volt goes just as far or not, or maybe even a little bit farther than the early Model S's for the same price or less, with a brand new car with the latest technology with Apple CarPlay. So we ended up getting a Bolt the last days of 2019, and immediately took it on a 10-state, 2,000-mile road trip and learned a lot about it. One, it doesn't charge nearly as fast as a Tesla. A Tesla charges 5 times as fast as a Bolt. So that was a little disappointing. It actually charges about the same or even a little slower than the Leaf does, but of course the Leaf only has 84 miles, so the Bolt has a lot more miles at 250. So it takes 3 times as long, at the same rate of charge. I've taken the Leaf to Chicago to pick up my parents from the airport, and there's a free place to charge at Bosac. Shout out to Bosac in Burns Harbor. Then you can get a free charge there. Use the restroom. Sit inside if you want, and then keep going to Chicago. But it charges up real quick in about 15-18 minutes. Then you're good to go back on your way with the Leaf. Or if you want to charge longer or get more, because all these cars, then they at about 80%, then it drops way down and starts charging at a very slow rate. So to get the full range when you're on a road trip takes a lot longer. If you're into adventure, I encourage you to have an e-venture and find a great park, a great restaurant, really make a time of it, which we love to do. So we found all kinds of amazing places that we never would have gone to if we weren't charging. And the best way I can describe having an electric car, any electric car, is that it's like being on a cruise, because you're going somewhere, but that's not even the point. It's not the ultimate point, really. It's that you can relax because your destination is already set. Or there's other things happening. So while you're charging, it just gives you the freedom to really fully relax because your car is filling up. And I imagine that's what that was like in the olden days when you had to, give your horse water, and you'd take out a blanket and you'd have a picnic. It's very relaxing, just like that. So I encourage you to get an EV. I would love to help you find your next EV. After helping 4 friends now purchase electric vehicles, I've decided to offer that more widely. And for a small fee, I will find you the perfect vehicle that will fit your range needs, that will be the kind of car that you need. So everything from a $4,000 Nissan Leaf, or even less than that, could get a even less than that is possible if you just need to go around town, all the way up to the nicest, newest Tesla. I'm happy to help you find the perfect car for you. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sheila, for sharing your story. Let's see here. Catherine, are you able to get the slides back up? Just hold on for a moment here, everyone. So Sheila, looks like we're having some technical difficulties where someone else who's managing the slides is having their computer freeze. Why don't we, we'll go to Q&A later, but let's go ahead and switch to Rachel Novick here, and she can start giving her part of the presentation. Rachel, you want to tell us a little about your plug-in minivan?
Sure do. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I live in South Bend, and I work in Notre Dame. And in the end of 2017, we purchased a Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid. And the Pacifica is the first plug-in minivan on the market. And so it was something that we had been looking out for and hoping would be made available for quite a while. We have 4 kids, and our kids had been are all very environmentally conscious and had expressed a lot of displeasure at the fact that we use gasoline in our car. And we explained to them that the electric cars on the market just didn't have the space to fit all of them. And so I really had said to them at some point, you know, when there's a car that we can all fit in that's electric, we're going to get it. And so I had never owned a full-size minivan before. We had driven a Mazda 5 because it just has a, not that it's terribly efficient, but it has a smaller footprint. And I was a little intimidated by the size of a full-size minivan as well as the price tag. A couple of things about both of those. First of all, in terms of the price tag, the Pacifica is eligible for the $7,500 federal tax credit, and that really brought the price down to the price of, let's say, your typical gas-powered minivan. And then in terms of driving a large vehicle like this, the Pacifica offered a really nice suite of safety features. So, you know, if someone hits the brakes right in front of me and I don't notice, the car will first start beeping at me, and then if I don't brake, the car will self-brake. It has great signaling in terms of whether there's anybody in your blind spot or there's somebody that's in the lane next to you. It has 360-degree cameras and will let you know if you're backing up, if there's anybody anywhere, not just behind you, but if there's anyone coming down the block. So it's really given me a lot of confidence and comfort in terms of driving a larger vehicle. Can everybody still hear me?
Yep, keep going.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to share a little about the hybrid electric features of the vehicle. So it gets 33 miles on electric only, and that is not a ton compared to some other electric cars, but it's the only plug-in car in its class. And so as you guys can see the picture, so you can see it is a full-size minivan. And the 33 miles works really well for us because we drive this car to drop our kids off at school, go to work, go to the grocery store, take the kids to after-school activities, etc. And so because we live in a small city like South Bend, we're actually able to do that. All of our daily errands fit really nicely in less than 33 miles. And so on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, we don't use any gasoline at all. As you can see in the picture on the right, I'm going to go back. We charge our car at home. That's our garage. When we first got the vehicle, we have an older home, and we found that just putting it on the outlet in the garage that was shared with a lot of the lights inside the house was tripping our circuit. And so we just had another circuit put in, like a dedicated outlet. And so that's been great. So super convenient. So we let it charge all night. If it's fully depleted, it's going to charge for, about 12 hours. And as more fast chargers become available, we're looking forward to taking advantage of those. But in town, we don't have any need for them. So when the car, I just wanted to mention one more thing. When the car finishes the EV only availability and switches into hybrid mode, I think that's often people's next question. Well, like, what's the mileage like? Because I think on a typical minivan of this size, you're going to get something in the like 20s. So the official efficiency of it in hybrid mode is, I think, about 33 miles per gallon, but our experience is that it's better than that. And I've seen articles written in which people tested it once they had depleted the electricity and we're running it in hybrid mode and we're getting 47 miles a gallon. So we've been really pleased. We can take it on a road trip all day and maybe fill it up once. So that's been great. Things we really enjoy about the vehicle, as you can see from these pictures, there's a lot of room. So this vehicle seats 7. So there's the second row with the bucket seats, and then the third row has the bench. So plenty of room for the kids, plenty of room for stuff. The trunk is really large. We can take suitcases for the whole family in the trunk. As you can see in the bottom left, if you have a lot of stuff you need to transport, you can put down the third row and it will go completely flat. And then you have a huge amount of space. You cannot put down the second row because the batteries are underneath those seats. So as I mentioned, we love the safety features and the 360-degree cameras. It's also got the kind of technology that you expect in a high-end minivan, like a really nice entertainment system with the screens. They're touch screens. They play videos, they play games. So when we are on a big road trip, the kids are able to relax and enjoy themselves. So our last slide, if you want to forward to that one, it's just a little bit about our family inspirations. So we were already looking at this vehicle, but actually my in-laws got it ahead of us, and that's my mother-in-law on the right-hand side, and they purchased this same vehicle. They use it to take the grandkids on outings and really enjoy it. And my father-in-law loves new technology, and so it was something really new and cool and different. And so it's been a great experience for them as well. And there are some pictures of some of our kids who were the inspiration for this purchase, and have and they enjoy it, and it's inspired them to feel good about taking this step toward being more environmentally conscious. And so they all have continued in that vein, getting involved in climate activism and anti-litter campaigns and things like that. So it kind of supports them in really feeling good about being able to make a difference. And I think that's about it.
Great. Thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing. I think it says a lot that there is a plug-in minivan available. The days of electric vehicles only being tiny little sedans has kind of ended. So this is very exciting. Thanks for participating.
Sure.
All right. So next up, we have Aaron Kingsley with the City of Goshen's new Department of Environmental Resilience. And I just want to check that Catherine's able to share your video. She was having some technical difficulties. So
we're
why
back
don't you
now.
introduce? We're back. Great. Okay. So Aaron, why don't you introduce a little bit before we play the video?
Sure. I'm not used to being in front of the camera, so you'll see that in the video that we see. But I think what we attempted to show was just a little bit of driving experience in the city's Tesla 3, which we purchased at the end of 2019. was intended, when we purchased it, was intended to be used as a pool car for coming and going to other municipalities in the region. Of course, we haven't had much opportunity to do that this year. We're all learning how to drive on Zoom and go to webinar, etc. But we do have the capacity, and various of us city staff have been getting used to using that vehicle. We also have an interview with one of our police officers who is using a hybrid vehicle for the first time. He's only been using it for about a month, but we thought it'd be interesting to get his reactions to using that, his experience of using that so far. So that's kind of what we'll see here. Otherwise, Goshen is working at finding ways to build our the electric capacity in our vehicle fleet as we work on our climate action plan, which intends to move us towards net zero emissions by 2035. That's our big goal, and electric vehicles will clearly be an important part of our strategy for reaching that goal. So go ahead and let's see the video.
Hi, I'm Aaron Sawatsky Kingsley. I'm the director for the Goshen Department of Environmental Resilience. We're going to take a little drive in the city's Tesla Model 3 here. I don't have much experience driving this car yet, so we can kind of use this as a demo for a new driver or somebody who is interested in a vehicle like this for the first time. We thought we'd start by just kind of opening a few things up for you to see before we get in and drive it. There's the front door, obviously. Come around here and we'll look at at what's under the hood. Well, there's not a whole lot to access for most folks in terms of under the hood. There's storage, essentially. There's also storage in the trunk, of course. But the battery, etc., is within and underneath the car as well. So I'm going to close this. We'll go back around on the other side. There we go. We'll go back around on the other side and we'll see what it takes to plug this car in. So this is the key for the car. Just basically a credit card, right? The plug-in for the car is underneath this panel here. So use the key to unlock it. And there's the plug-in. Just close it again. All right. I think we ought to get in and go for a ride. Right, here we are inside the car. I've got my key. I'm just gonna set it down here on the console. And believe it or not, listen. We're ready to go. I'm gonna roll down my window. It's a little warm. So here is our shifter. You can see on the screen as I there, we got to press on the brake. So neutral, click through to drive, and you can click up to get to reverse. We'll go and drive. So you can see the whole printout here, the whole screen here. Let's see if we can find out where we are. Here we are. Here we go. Quiet. So you can see how it's sensing different obstacles or possible obstructions in the way as we go around. We've got some construction on the road here, so we're just easing out. The Tesla Model 3 has an average battery range of about 250 miles for full charge. We can see about what we've got in this particular charge, still 199 miles. So this is all electric. There's no fossil fuel of any kind, just electric. I find that the thing that is the most interesting to get used to in this vehicle is the way that it stops as I take my foot off of the accelerator. I mean, it recovers the energy all on its own. I didn't brake. I didn't use the brake at all to come to a stop just now. In fact, I needed to kind of accelerate up to the stoplight here because it was stopping me on its own so smoothly, so quickly. So that's one thing that I find driving this vehicle that I have to get used to as I drive it. So again, you can see how the sensors on the car are picking up all the details on either side of us and in front of us, including the stoplight there. The cars that are passing us here in the turn lane, you can see them going by. And shortly it'll pick up the change in the stoplight. There we go. So I'm gonna step on it and just see how this feels. It's got some pretty impressive pickup. That's quite impressive to me. Plenty fast. Okay, we're gonna try the auto drive. I just have to click down on the gear shift a couple times. 1, 2. Now it's taking over, taking my hands off. However, it will check in with me from time to time to make sure that I'm paying attention. It'll signal me on the screen that I need to put my hands on the steering wheel and squeeze. But otherwise, it is either matching the speed limit or matching the speed of the car in front. So here it wants me to put my hands on and squeeze, and then the blue light went off again. But otherwise, the car is correcting itself against the center line and the side of the road on its own, as well as watching the vehicle in front. This vehicle's autopilot software is not equipped to read stoplights. Here I need to squeeze the steering wheel again. And actually, I overcorrected when I squeezed it, and so it turned the autopilot off on its own. So I'll put it back on, and now it's taking control again. The car in front is braking, and so our car slowed down. And we're going around a curve a bit, and the Tesla is taking us right around the curve on its own. Kind of impressive. Here again, it wants me to put my hands on and squeeze, so I do. Didn't squeeze hard enough. There we go. So that's the auto drive feature, which feels pretty space age, I gotta say. I can correct on my own to brake the autopilot or touch the brake. I'll just kind of do both, and now I'm back in control. So those are some of the features of the Tesla 3. Of course, there are many more that an owner-operator would need to learn and get to know. But these are some of the basic ones that help a vehicle like this to feel interesting and useful and even fun. Thanks for riding along.
It's Kyle Prim. I'm a patrolman with the Goshen Police Department.
So, how long have you been driving the hybrid vehicle?
About a month now.
And what are your first impressions of it? How it handles, etc.
Impressions are very good with as far as the handling. The has plenty of power for our needs and so forth. Yeah, it's the suspension on it. I can tell is pretty good.
How does it compare to the other vehicles that you've driven in the past? Comparable?
Probably a little bit better in certain aspects of it. It's an all-wheel drive vehicle versus a lot of the Impalas we had were just front-wheel drives, and the Tahoe that I used to drive was a strictly a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So,
Okay.
so it's a lot better, and I'm sure will be a lot better in the poor weather conditions. So.
Yeah, right. Great. How is the size of it and the interior, the user friendliness of it?
Plenty of room in the interior, also for cargo space. As you can see, I'm a bigger guy, so it's a little difficult for me getting in and out of the Impalas, but with this vehicle, it's no problem at all. So plenty of room, and the seat can go all the way back, which is a bonus for me because that's usually where I keep my seat at. So.
In terms of sort of specific police work-related kinds of aspects, does it handle those kinds of needs well for you too?
Absolutely. They have it equipped with a lot of integrated systems with the light bar on the steering wheel to adjust, and so it's better in a lot of aspects because of some of the integrations that they did with specifically for the police vehicles. So.
Any other particular features about it? You mentioned the four-wheel drive. The size of it feels adequate. Any other specific features that you again that are different than what you've had and that you enjoy?
The lighting system that they have on it too is very good. Sometimes working day shift with the sun out, it's really sometimes difficult to see our vehicles, or if you're go to stop a vehicle, they have a little harder time recognizing you're attempting to stop them. With this, the lighting system is very good and adequate for what I need for stopping vehicles and being seen.
Yeah. So would you recommend that the department acquire more hybrid vehicles?
I would say yes. It's a little early to tell. I'm sure that a lot will be determined over time. But as of now, I mean, it suits our needs just fine as far as what we need for a police vehicle. So no complaints there at all. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time and
no problem
for your experience.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Look forward to Q&A here at the end. So next we're going to transition over to Adam Thada. He's the Director of Ecological Relationships at the Center at Donaldson. And Adam, I'll let you take it away from here.
All right. Do I need to hit share my webcam here?
Yes, you do.
Okay. See me now?
Yep, got it.
All right. Just go to the first slide and get started. I was going to share about the plug-in hybrid, but having a couple other people do that, I wanted to share about our experience using a fully electric vehicle in our fleet. At the Center at Donaldson, we have a fleet with quite a few users and different uses that they have as they go about their jobs. We have a fleet that's available for people to go if they need to attend conferences or workshops, whatever it is that they're doing, as well as we have a senior living facility with seniors there, some of which that don't own their cars and may borrow a car for the day, or sisters at the convent may also take a car out of the fleet. So we have a couple dozen vehicles, and at any given time we have several out on a day, some of them just going into town, 8 miles and then back, some going out of state, some going regional trips for the day. So our purposes for electrification from a fleet perspective are, one, to reduce emissions, 2, to control costs, just to have the predictability of electric mobility versus gasoline going up and down. And with as many vehicles we have, seems like every other week we have a giant gas tanker come onto the property and watch the dollars just pour out as we have to pay for all that gas. And so trying to control those costs. And lastly, to be a change agent to try to spur this electrification within our region, that it's a little out of the way from the urban centers, and use this also for educational opportunities for our educational mission. Next slide. So the vehicle that we settled on after some discussions and looking and analyzing was the 2019 Nissan Leaf, and we got it right at the beginning of 2019 in the middle of winter. So ideal for really testing the limits of electric vehicles. As many people know, they do have reduced range in the winter. But otherwise, in terms of handling snow in winter conditions, is not terribly different than a gasoline vehicle. And so this model is the 40 kilowatt hour version, also known as 150 miles of range under kind of normal conditions, not too fast, not too slow, hot or cold. And it is also equipped with a 50 kilowatt fast charging capability. So we can, I have taken this down to Indianapolis, and requires either during my stay there to charge up with the level 1 or level 2 that people have talked about, or to use the fast chargers that are down there. So like's been reported earlier, it's not as fast as the latest models that are coming out or the Teslas, but it still does permit the vehicle to be used further abroad than just kind of regional day trips. The nice thing about using this for the fleet too is that there is a simplicity to it, because some people have a hard time understanding the plug-in hybrid concept. There's just too many things going on. There's 2 different drivetrains. Am I going to be stranded when this one little battery runs out? So this one is just straight battery, and we have the simplicity for that. Next slide. So in the first 6 months, we kept a fairly detailed driver's log specifically for this: who was driving it, what their experience was like, any issues that they reported, even, it's not on here, but even the temperature outside, the ambient temperature. And there was quite, I've kind of obsessively researched a lot of this ahead of time, but for a lot of people, it was just brand new, and all they had heard is 1 or 2 scary news stories, and that's about it. So it really just kind of underlines the fact that for any of us, when we're facing something new, whether it's a technology or experience, it really does help to have a friend or a trusted person that has experienced the same thing or is familiar with the technology, just like all these technologies. So we've also kept track of the destination and the drivers. And after about 6 months, we got kind of tired of filling out that much detail on the form and realized that nobody got stranded, nobody, really was not a terribly different experience than a gasoline vehicle for the vast majority of cases. Next slide. So the usage for this vehicle has been about after, we're closing in on end of third quarter 20 of the second year. And we're averaging about 8,000 miles a year. So in a fleet that was a little tighter or ran their vehicles at a higher utilization than we do, you'd see more miles than that. We're a little bit limited because of the range that we can't use it in absolutely every use case, but we can use it for quite a few. So at 8,000 miles a year, we still are displacing some gasoline. I believe when I ran the numbers, it was about 22, 25 gallons a month. So a couple fill-ups a month. And like I said, mostly day trips, some regional trips, and those of us who are kind of familiar with the fast charging component, it can be a little confusing because it's not always quite as easy as swiping a card for gasoline. But when you really think about it, we've all been driving gasoline vehicles for so long, we've just gotten used to the experience. You go to a gas station, you actually do have about 4 different things to put in your car, and one of them will cause your car one or more of them may cause your car to be ruined. And we just realize that we know what our fuel, our vehicle needs. So adapting that for electricity, there's going to be a learning curve, but fortunately you can't put the wrong plug into your vehicle, and you can't charge it too fast. Like your vehicle's not going to receive a current that's too fast. So there's those safeguards that are an advantage over, gasoline if you put a diesel fuel, for example, in a gasoline car. Anyway, back to usage. So far, we've had about 20 unique drivers in the vehicle. We have some professional drivers that will drive people around, but we've also had just people who are, checking out a vehicle for the day. And that gets back to the butts and seat concept of you can talk all day about these things, but really just the experience of understanding what it's like to be in these vehicles, understanding the nice feeling of, with my own plug-in hybrid at home, only having to fill up once every other month and forgetting what side of the car the gas cap is on is kind of a good feeling, and just completely forgetting about its financial impact on my monthly budget is also a good feeling. I think I got one more slide here. So again, with a fleet consideration, because battery electric vehicles are typically capital intensive but lower cost over time, the more miles you can push those, the more impact you have on your budget. Or if you're personally commuting, the longer commute you have, actually, the quicker it will make purely financial sense for you to go electric. So the more you can utilize these vehicles and use them every day, whether it's a city or a nonprofit, the better. I've really enjoyed, part of my job is environmental and ecological education, and I have been able to use these multiple times because our charging station is out in kind of a public area, and we have groups coming. So it's been really advantageous for us, and even it led to new partnerships for our ministry. Just the fact that we have this public charging station actually attracts people to our grounds. And the next steps is something we just released. We did a press release. We're going to be having a vehicle to grid pilot project where electricity can actually flow from the battery back to the grid based on certain financial incentives we can get from our electric utility. So we're super excited about that. Oh, and to highlight on this slide, this is, I don't have a video today, and unfortunately I don't have a URL to share, but if you Google PHJC blog and search on my blog for electric vehicles, you can find some short YouTube videos that I did for a road trip that we did this last winter when I drove the Nissan Leaf up to Lansing, and some of the considerations that we have. That's PHJC, Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ blog, and also have some videos there. So thank you.
Great, Adam. Thanks so much for sharing. Next, we have Tim Peters, who's a doctor in Valparaiso and lives in Marshall County and uses his Chevy Volt. So, Tim, we're going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, perfect, great, thanks. I just wanted to briefly share my experience with my 2017 Chevy Volt. This car wasn't new to us. We've had two previous plug-in hybrids. Our first car was 4 years ago. We had a plug-in C-Max, and I will still say to this day that that was the best car we'll ever drive. We dearly miss that car. And if I can just divert for a few brief seconds to disagree with Adam earlier, he said that you can't charge a car too fast. I'm here to tell you that you can. Our garage was hit by lightning when we had our plug-in hybrid, and we had the opportunity to collect on both our homeowners and our auto insurance for that. That didn't dissuade me from owning a plug-in hybrid, but I just wanted to disagree with my friend Adam and say that you can charge it too fast. We also had a Ford Fusion. It was a plug-in hybrid, and we still have that car. My daughter has it in college. It works great. The problem with the Fusion for me was it would only get 20 to 25 miles on electric before it would switch over to the gasoline engine. I had been following the Chevy Volt for a long time. That when the second generation came out, I believe it was 2016, they went up to about 50 to 55 miles. And that's my typical commute. As Leah said, I work in Valparaiso, but I live in Plymouth. So that's about a 44-mile commute. I bought my Chevy Volt pre-owned in April of 2019. It had about 23,000 miles on it now. In that short year and a half, I've put almost 40,000 miles on it. And I have nothing bad to say about it. It's been a great car. I was very sad to hear that they're not making it anymore, but I would buy this car again in a heartbeat. It allows me to commute from my home in Plymouth to where I work in Valparaiso completely on electric. The picture that's on the right-hand side of the screen is the level 2 charging station in Valparaiso. It takes about 4 hours to charge, and I drive home on electric. So almost all of my commuting is done on electric. Occasionally, it'll burn a little bit of gasoline on my typical day, but most days it does not. The beautiful thing about the Volt is it gets over 40 miles to a gallon when it does burn gasoline. So I just wanted to give a real brief shout out to both the City of Valparaiso, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leah, I think that the South Shore Cooperative was also involved in those level 2 charging stations.
South Shore Clean Cities, yep.
So, okay, right. There are 2 separate charging stations in downtown Valparaiso. They both work great. They're both fairly busy. There's a lot of other cars, it seems like more so over the last 6 months, that are there. I did a little math on my ChargePoint app, and for the month of September, which will be ending here in just in another day or two, I've got almost 600 miles of charging from the City of Valparaiso and from South Shore Group there, completely free, charge free. So even at $2 a gallon, after about a year or 2 years, it becomes real money, so to speak. One other point I wanted to make, I've had my Volt for almost, it'll be a year and a half next month. I changed the oil on it when I got it because the oil has to be changed every 2 years. It'll have another one due in 6 months. I just don't burn enough gasoline to where I need to change the oil. So yeah, that's about all I have. I love the Volt. I'm very excited about the future of electric vehicles. I have my eye on that Model 3. I just can't, the price point, I can't make it work right now. But yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Tim. And if the other folks want to join us, we'll be switching over to Q&A here. So if you're listening along, feel free to type in any questions in the questions box. Catherine, if you'd like to advance the slide here, there we go. If you want to connect with the speakers, I've put Aaron with the City of Goshen and Adam Thada with the Center at Donaldson. I put their contact information. If you want to privately connect with any of the other EV drivers and have questions about their vehicle or their experience, happy to connect you with them. Or there's also with the Michiana electric vehicle network, we have other drivers of many other vehicle types, both used and new, and you can reach out and ask to be connected with anyone there. So happy to do that. Now we're going to go into Q&A. So one of the questions that we got in earlier was about range and how both temperature, winters or hot summers, how that affects the range. And then, if you load down your vehicle, you have 4 kids and a dog and you're going on a road trip. I think I might ask Adam to answer that one, because you've kept really careful track of how the seasons and temperature and different driving conditions affects vehicles. If you want to take that.
Yeah, so with battery electric vehicles, especially if you're only electric, that is a big consideration, both your speed and the temperature, and then that's both additive. So if you really want to get somewhere in a hurry in the winter, then you have to take that in consideration. So when I did my so I put all the numbers on my blog on that about that road trip to East Lansing. So you can see numbers for that, but that was, we were 21 degrees, I think, and probably had a headwind or a crosswind. And because I was only going to make one one charging stop, I went ahead and moved, at the speed of traffic. I didn't go particularly slow, so 70 miles an hour on the interstate. And we, between the speed and the cold, I'm trying to remember if it sat out overnight the night before, but we lost about 35% of the listed range. So we were looking at 90 to 100 miles instead of 150. So we definitely took that into consideration. I also had, a plan B, because there was only one fast charger between here and Lansing. And if I was gonna, end up coming up short, I would have kind of a backup. I could pull into a level 2 and stay warm and everything else. And I wouldn't have probably taken the trip without, having all those plans. And in the end, it worked about as expected. And I had a little bit, I built in some margin because I could have drove slower if I wanted to. We didn't skimp on the heat either. So it's definitely something to take in consideration, and keep an eye on what charging stations are coming up.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, I would say that it is, even with the longest range vehicles that get pretty close to the experience of just a regular gas vehicle, you really do need to put a little forethought into it, more than just making sure your gas tank's not empty, in terms of planning out routes and having backups, especially as some places don't have charging infrastructure built out as other states nearby. So we also got a question about charging, and some people mentioned charging at home with regular outlets, and people mentioned level 2. So if someone would like to explain the difference in charging levels and I don't know if Tim or Rachel want to take that one, or Sheila, on your charging setup at home.
I can comment on that. I do not have a level 2 charger or 240 volt charger at home. I'm just charging on the standard 110. For my purposes, for a 50 mile charge, I can get that almost overnight on a 15-hour charge. It would be nice in a pinch, but I do not have it, and it meets my needs just fine.
Yeah, and Sheila, you also only have level 1 or 110 at home, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've got a, just a regular outlet, is it a 110? And that works fine. It charges up the Leaf entirely overnight. So people, the first question in parking lots and things, people always say, how long does it take to charge? And I always say 10 seconds. Because you get home and you plug it in and you go and have your evening and it's ready to go the next morning, and you never have to stop at a gas station. If you're going, then
I think we're losing your connection here. At least it's breaking up for me. There we go. Sounds better.
Okay. the J1772, otherwise known as level 2 chargers, are ubiquitous and are most of the time free, which is also nice. So that's the ideal kind of destination charger. So when you go out to a park or a restaurant or go out to do anything, a meeting, or then you find those a lot. I want to give recommend the PlugShare app or website, plugshare.com. I think it's a lot of people talk about a better route planner, but I think PlugShare really works even better. The toggles over, you can see the amount of charge and different kinds of charging. It's really, I find that the most useful in planning where I'm heading. So that's a level 2 charger. And those generally are about, what, 12 go any from.
I think you're breaking up again, at least for me. I don't know. Yeah, for all of us. So I'm going to switch to asking a question of Aaron. We're getting several questions on the price of gas. And I know, at least for me, it's kind of interesting when you realize that you've forgotten what the price of gas is and you don't look at the signs anymore. But for the city of Goshen, what's that kind of look like for your operations and your projected savings on your fuel costs?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we don't have enough data yet really to make a a really good long-term kind of projection on the savings. But as part of our climate action plan, is we're looking for ways to reduce costs as well as emissions that the city government is responsible for. We certainly see that that electric vehicles are one of the ways to achieve those goals. And to tell you the truth, I don't personally pay much attention to gas prices either, because my other vehicle is a bike, so there's that too. Yeah, so we've had the Tesla 3 for only about 9 months, and then the hybrid that the police officer has been driving only for about a month. The city has a few other hybrids in our fleet, and I need to follow up with our fleet manager to kind of begin to run some of those comparisons on price, electric versus gas. But clearly, the electric is going to be cheaper at this point, and certainly emits less too in the long run. So yeah, sorry I don't have better hard data on that, but that is something that we will begin to break out as our track record lengthens.
Yeah, and speaking of emitting less, we've gotten some questions about whether electric vehicles do emit less, and I'll take that question. You think about the electricity comes from somewhere, so even though if locally there's less emissions, that's being outsourced somewhere, assuming that comes from coal or natural gas. But the interesting thing is that even with 70% of the electricity coming from coal, you would still have an equivalent of a 55 mile per gallon vehicle, so like a Prius. That's still the environmental benefit of running a car on electricity, mostly from coal and natural gas. However, when you think about the ability to make something cleaner, there's a tremendous amount of potential with electricity, because with NIPSCO planning to retire most of their coal plants and transition significantly to renewables over the next 3 to 8 years, that electricity that the cars are running on will just get cleaner and the impact will just improve. So I think it's a fair question to ask, and there's a lot of potential as electrification happens. There will be more need for electricity and more need for renewables to support that demand. So we have another question here. What would you say to someone interested in purchasing an EV but not sure where to start? And I think some of you mentioned purchasing your vehicles used, others bought them new. So that can be a really daunting process. It's not like you can just drive to any dealer and they will be knowledgeable about the car that you're trying to have them sell you. So if anyone wants to share any personal experiences or tips about the car shopping process.
I would just say, make sure to join the Facebook group, put a note there. We're all, enthusiasts of various stripes of different experiences, and we'll come give you a test drive. Somebody will.
Just to
I'd also just chime
encourage.
in with that. Oh, sorry.
I
I
don't.
think car dealerships in general are very uninterested in electric vehicles.
Right.
You know, they want what sells, and these aren't the big ticket items. So you really have to do a little bit more legwork on your own for that.
Yeah, and Leafs in particular, because of you want battery health is so variable on other electric vehicles. It's more standard, but for Leafs, you really kind of need to know what you're doing. And I would be glad to help anyone find a Leaf or a Bolt or a Tesla or any other electric vehicle.
Yeah, and what Sheila is referring to is some of the earliest generations of some vehicles, the batteries showed that they degraded pretty or faster than expected in really hot climates, so in Arizona or something. And so you don't want to buy the very first Nissan Leaf from Texas and expect the battery to be in good shape. So there's just little things to learn. But yeah, as Adam mentioned, if you reach out to me, let's go back to the contact information slide. If you reach out to me, I'd be happy to put you in touch with the local EV drivers group, and you can either see if someone will let you test drive their vehicle, or you can ask questions. You know, so many people have started with internet searches and background research, and when you get to the point of actually going into a dealer, whether it's a used vehicle or a new vehicle, you really end up selling the vehicle to yourself because you know what you want, you're educated, you know what's a fair price, and that usually goes the best, because a lot of the if the salesperson tries to help, I find in my shopping experiences, they may actually be giving misinformation about even how charging works. So definitely educate yourself first. That would be my biggest tip there. Another question is, let's see, we have a question about solar installations and level 1 charging. Can you charge if you have solar panels, and do you have to be separate? Do you have to be on a separate circuit in order to do that? So I think Adam would be best poised to answer this one.
Yeah, the answer for that one is generally no, although the other answer is probably it depends. Your utilities, how your build is based on the utility where you're at, and you know, across our region where we have REMCs, NIPSCO, and Indiana Michigan Power. So with my setup, it doesn't really matter when I charge at all. I have a flat rate 24/7. Tim, yours is probably the same way. So whether I charge level 1, level 2, it's the same rate. The solar, I have net metering. That means if I'm excess producing during the day, it just goes back to the grid and I get credits. So sometimes if I happen to be home and my battery's empty, I'll charge it up during the middle of the day and soak up all those electrons. Makes me feel good. If it doesn't, it just goes out the wire and goes over to my neighbor's house and runs their refrigerator. So it's because I'm not in an off-grid situation. The nice thing is that it all is just working without me having to worry about it at all.
Yep. And Adam, you mentioned I am plugged in program, so I typed that link into the chat box. That's Indiana Michigan Power, so that's mostly the South Bend Elkhart area, but it's a brand new incentive program, and only the first few people are enrolling now, but it's a discounted electricity cost. So at night, which is off-peak charging time, you pay less than the normal rate. During the day, you pay the normal rate, and then you can also get a rebate for the charging station installation. I think it's $250 to help with installing a level 2 at home. So those are brand new incentives to take advantage of if you're thinking of buying an electric vehicle. And then there are just other incentives out there on a variety of different vehicles. You know, Costco offers an extra discount on the Chevy Volt right now. I know the Nissan Leaf has various rebates going on it. So it pays to do your research. And you know, for me personally, when I first bought my Nissan Leaf, I bought it as a new model was being introduced because there were deep discounts on the old model because of that. And so if you're smart about it, or you get an affordable used vehicle, these don't need to be out of the reach for just really anyone who can afford to buy a used vehicle. So let's see if we have any final questions, and we'll close it out here in the next couple minutes. Let's see. we have any more. I don't see that we've had any more. Well, okay. Is there any aspect of EV ownership that has really surprised you that you did not expect? This is kind of maybe a tougher question. What did you not expect when you got into this journey?
I would say for me the most, because I researched everything to death, I kind of predicted a lot of things, but the weirdest thing was seeing on my display the range of my vehicle going up when I got in the morning. When I got in my car in the morning, I'm like, it went up. Why has the range not gone down? Like it's a totally different thought that I could fuel my car up in my house and like not have to go to a gas station unless I leave the county. And that was a nice feeling. And it was so little that I don't have a terribly long commute, but it was so little that I can't really detect it on my electric bill.
Yeah, Rachel, I know we can't see you, but I don't want to leave you out of Q&A. If you have any thoughts on just kind of anything surprising from your experience, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's been a ton of surprises. The Pacifica is, I think, Chrysler's first electric vehicle, right, Leah? So,
to my knowledge.
It was kind of something new for the company, so it wasn't like there was a whole history there. And they really did like redesign the car from scratch, and I think they did a great job. There have definitely been some recalls. I mean, we bought the 2017, which was the first year that they came out with this vehicle, and so we've been back a bunch of times in terms of things that they've checked about the battery and safety, and so I guess that was, I mean, not totally surprising considering this was Chrysler's first foray into EVs. But mostly it's just been really easy. And so, you know, we're just really looking forward to a point at which like we can kind of, drive from here to New York with fast chargers and stay on electric. And I wanted to mention about, people talked about like where you get your electricity from. And one of the follow-up things that my kids asked for, because when they were talking about the car and they wanted to know where electricity came from, was they asked us to sign, if I could sign us up for green energy with AEP. So that's like a small surcharge, and that supports the utility scale solar that they're installing in our region.
Yeah. We got one more question here on as these vehicles are becoming more common and we've seen them really start to increase in our region in the last couple of years, has congestion at public charging stations become a problem? And Tim mentioned his experience in Valparaiso. Maybe he will increasingly not find a spot to charge if public charging doesn't increase. So I wanted to make everyone here aware that through the Indiana Volkswagen Environmental Mitigation Program, the state of Indiana has about $6 million that they're investing in public charging stations over the next 2 years. So we're going to see a build out of more level 2 stations, and we're going to see a pretty transformational series of projects across all the interstates and some of the major highway corridors in the state of Indiana to put fast charging stations. And some of these will be very high powered fast charging stations. So the landscape will be improving with this infusion thanks to the private settlement. And I think that, definitely more public charging is needed. And we haven't seen a lot of that here local to the MACOG region, but that's coming down the road. And along with the Electrify America settlement, that's also part of the Volkswagen settlement. The Electrify America VW subsidiary is also building out fast charging. So that's where we got the UP Mall station, and there's a number that have gone in across the state and across the whole country. So if you Google Electrify America, you can see where they're installing them. Really, so an electric vehicle can go coast to coast. And these will be as ubiquitous as gas stations. So that's really exciting. And so I really look forward to doing this again, hopefully in person next year. We can all get together and test drive some vehicles. But I think we'll have some exciting news to share about new charging stations and a lot of new vehicle models that'll be available in the coming years. So thank you so much to everyone who shared their story. And those of you who are watching either live or recorded, feel free to reach out to us and learn more. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.